The Texas sun burned down with a merciless heat, turning the roof shingles into a griddle under Logan Pierce's knees. Sweat trickled into his eyes as he hammered a loose shingle into place, the rhythmic thump of the hammer matching the quiet measured beat of his heart. It was Father's Day, a day that for Logan had always meant quiet reflection, a barbecue in the backyard, maybe a game of catch with his son Caleb. But this year everything felt different. The phone buzzed in his pocket, shattering the stillness of the afternoon. Logan wiped his brow, shifted his weight on the roof, and answered. Caleb's voice came through sharp, casual, with the careless edge of a teenager who thought he had the world figured out. Hey, Dad, just wanted to let you know. Mom says we're moving in with Chad next week. His place is way bigger, and he actually makes money. You should probably, get a better job. Maybe try making more than 28 grand a year. The words hit like a hammer to the chest, harder than any shingle Logan had ever driven into a roof. He sat back on his heels, the hammer slipping from his fingers and clattering down the shingles. Caleb kept talking, unaware of the silence on the other end of the line. Mom said you were too stubborn, too stuck in your ways. She says Chad's successful dad. He can give us a real life, vacations, new shoes, the kind of stuff you never could. Logan's hand trembled as he lowered the phone, but his voice when it came was steady, cold, almost clinical. That's interesting, Caleb, really interesting. There was a pause. Logan could hear Caleb's breath catch just a small hitch. The tone had shifted, and the boy knew it even if he couldn't explain how. What do you mean? Caleb asked, a note of unease creeping into his voice. Logan didn't answer. He climbed down from the roof, each step, deliberate boots thudding against the ladder rungs. On the ground, he wiped his hands on his jeans, ignoring the sweat dripping down his spine. He walked into the house, a simple two-story, in a quiet Austin neighborhood, and crossed the living room to the built-in cabinet by the stairs. From behind a stack of dusty photo albums, he pulled out a slim black phone, sleek, encrypted, untraceable. Not the beat-up Android his family thought was his only device. 3 taps unlocked a dashboard of information most hedge fund managers would kill to see. Logan's eyes flicked across the numbers, subsidiaries, shell companies, asset transfers, all hidden behind layers of protection. But every dollar, every debt, every deal had his name woven into it, including Chad Kingston's entire business empire. Logan's finger hovered over a single button, execute debt recall. He didn't press it yet. Instead, he called Caleb back. Tell your mother and Chad, he said evenly, that they'll stop laughing when they realize I own his company. In fact, I think I'll tell them myself. Dad, what the hell are you talking about? Caleb asked, his voice suddenly small. Logan smiled, a quiet, lethal thing. You'll understand soon enough. He hung up, pocketed the phone, and stared out the window. The neighborhood seemed so peaceful when lawns mowed, flags fluttering in the breeze, kids riding bikes down the sidewalk. Logan had spent 20 years playing the role of the modest handyman, the guy who showed up to patch roofs and fix leaky sinks, while quietly building an empire behind the scenes. He'd let Rebecca believe he was a failure because it kept her predictable, controllable. He'd worn threadbare jeans and driven an old Ford F-150, all so she wouldn't ask the wrong questions. But today the mask came off. Today the game changed. Logan turned back to the cabinet, reaching for a file labeled Ironclad Protocol. It was time to end the charade and show Rebecca, Chad, and even Caleb what it really meant to betray a man who had spent 2 decades perfecting the art of patience. The lobby of the Driscoll Hotel pulsed with quiet opulence, plush carpets, dark mahogany trim, and the soft clink of crystal glasses from the nearby lounge. Logan sat in the penthouse suite, the curtains drawn back to reveal the sprawling Austin skyline glittering like a promise. The air conditioning hummed low, but the tension in the room was electric. Across from him, Caleb slouched in an oversized leather chair, looking every bit the teenager who thought he had it all figured out until today. The boy's sneakers tapped nervously against the floor, and his gaze bounced between the flat-screen TV and the wall of windows. Dad, woo! Why are we here, and how did you... He gestured around the suite, confusion thick in his voice. Logan leaned back, steepling his fingers. The tailored lines of his suit, a dark, expensive cut Caleb had never seen, caught the light. For a long moment, he didn't say a word, letting the silence settle like fog around them. Then he reached for the tablet on the table and turned it toward his son. Take a look. Caleb blinked, hesitant, but curiosity got the better of him. The screen displayed a sprawling network of companies, assets, and holding firms, names Caleb didn't recognize, but dollar amounts he did. Tens of millions. Hundreds. Logan swiped to the next screen, revealing a profile of Chad Kingston. Caleb's mouth opened slightly as the numbers lit up in front of him. Debts, loans, private equity investments, all connected, all leading back to one name. Meridian Holdings, Caleb read aloud, his voice cracking. Wait, that's your company. Logan nodded slowly. Every loan Chad has, I own. Every expansion, every flashy new gym, every investment he made my money, my terms, my control. He never knew. Caleb's breath hitched, but you're just a handyman. Logan gave a dry, humorless smile. That's what your mother wanted to believe. What I let her believe, it made everything simpler, safer. For a while, Caleb leaned forward, a disbelief and dawning understanding warring on his face. So you've been rich this whole time, and you let us live like we were broke. Why, Logan's gaze sharpened, the weight of 2 decades pressing behind his words. Because Caleb, money can blind people. It can change them. And I needed to see who your mother really was, who you would become when you thought there was nothing left. The boy flinched as if struck. The shame flickered across his features, and for the first time, Logan saw the cracks in the cocky teenage armor. Before Caleb could answer, a sharp knock echoed through the suite. Logan's eyes didn't waver, but he gestured calmly toward the door. Go ahead, let them in. Caleb rose hesitantly and opened the door. Rebecca swept in like a storm, dressed in designer clothes, her makeup perfect, but the fury etched in her face was raw. Chad followed close behind, his jaw clenched tight, his usual swagger dimmed by the undercurrent of fear in his eyes. Logan, what the hell is this? Rebecca demanded, her voice a sharp blade in the quiet room. Why did you change the locks on the house? Caleb belongs with me. Logan stood slowly, letting the full weight of his presence fill the room. He didn't yell. He didn't posture. He simply handed her a file, thick, organized, undeniable. Rebecca hesitated, then snatched it, flipping through pages of bank statements, ownership certificates, and contracts. The color drained from her face as she skimmed the contents. Chad leaned in, his brow furrowing. What is this crap? It's the truth, Logan replied, his voice calm but deadly. Your gyms, Chad. They're built on loans I own. The house bought through a trust you'll never touch. The money, it's mine. All of it. And the locks changed because I decided you're no longer welcome. Rebecca's hands trembled, her voice breaking. Logan, you can't do this. I'm your wife, Caleb's mother. Logan's gaze shifted to Caleb, steady and unwavering. Caleb, do you understand now? The boy's eyes were wide, his face pale. You set this all up, all of it. Logan nodded once. I let you believe what you wanted to believe. But now the truth is here. And the truth doesn't care how you feel. For a moment, no one moved. The city lights glimmered behind them, a silent reminder of the world outside, oblivious to the storm brewing in this suite. Then Logan's voice, low and cold, cut through the air. Sit down, we're just getting started. Chad didn't sit. He paced like a caged animal, his sneakers squeaking on the polished hardwood. His voice cracked the air like a whip, too loud for the space. What the hell kind of game is this, Logan? You think you can just play puppy master and ruin my life? You're a damn handyman, for Christ's sake. Logan didn't flinch. He stood steady, his hands clasped loosely in front of him, the quiet authority of a man who knew exactly how much power he held. Caleb watched the exchange, frozen, his eyes darting between his father and the man he'd been told was a real success. I'm not playing games, Chad, Logan said, voice low, measured. This isn't a bluff. This isn't some petty revenge fantasy. This is business. And unfortunately for you, you're a liability I no longer wish to carry. Rebecca's voice cut through the tension, sharp and desperate. Logan, stop this. Think about Caleb. He's just a kid. He doesn't need to be caught up in your insanity. Logan's gaze shifted to her, cold as steel. No, Rebecca. Caleb does need to see this. He needs to understand what happens when people mistake kindness for weakness. When they let greed poison loyalty. He turned to the tablet, tapped the screen, and flipped it around. A live feed of legal documents flashed across loan recall notices for every gym under Chad's name, effective immediately. Chad's face drained of color. You can't just, Logan interrupted, his tone final. The contracts were clear. You didn't read the fine print, did you, Chad? You thought you were clever opening gyms in 3 cities, buying that red Ferrari, showing off on social media. But every expansion, every lease, every equipment purchased my capital. And now I'm collecting. Chad's fists clenched, his body coiled like a spring. For a second, it looked like he might lunge, but the 2 security guards posted discreetly by the door shifted forward, silent but unmistakably ready. Caleb's voice broke the moment, small and shaking. Mom, did you know about this? Rebecca's mouth opened and closed, her eyes darting, but no words came. Logan watched her with the detached interest of a scientist observing a lab rat. Then almost gently he spoke. Tell him, Rebecca. Tell our son how you and Chad planned to cut me out, how you changed the locks, how you turned him against me. Tell him how you've been funneling money from your mother's care fund to pay for your little shopping sprees." Caleb's face crumpled. "What?" Logan tapped the screen again. Audio files played Rebecca's voice low and scheming. "If we can get him arrested for fraud, it's over. The insurance money, the house, it all comes to us. Katie can say Chad harassed her at the gym. It'll give us leverage if Logan fights the custody." Rebecca lunged for the tablet, but Logan snapped it shut before she could reach it. "No more lies," he said, voice quiet but deadly. Rebecca's shoulders sagged as if the air had been sucked out of her. Chad looked like he'd been gut-punched, his eyes wide with a dawning horror. Logan let the silence stretch, watching them squirm. Finally, he spoke slow and deliberate. "You have 48 hours. Liquidate everything. Sell the cars, the condos, whatever's left. After that, Chad, you'll owe me $2 million. Rebecca, you'll owe me the truth. But don't worry, there won't be much left to split." Rebecca's voice was barely a whisper. "Logan, we can fix this. We can." Logan shook his head. "No, Rebecca, we can't. This isn't about fixing a marriage. This is about respect. And you lost mine the day you decided Chad was a better option." Caleb stared at his mother, his expression a storm of confusion, betrayal, and something else, a glimmer of understanding. "Dad," he started, his voice breaking. Logan's gaze softened just slightly as he looked at his son. "It's okay, Caleb. None of this is your fault. But you're going to learn something important today when people show you who they are. Believe them." The room seemed to exhale, the weight of the moment sinking into the walls. Rebecca looked like she might collapse. Chad, pale and shaking, turned and stormed out, muttering curses under his breath. Logan watched them go, then looked down at his son. "Get some rest, kiddo," he said, voice steady but kind. "We've got a long day ahead of us tomorrow." And as the door clicked shut behind Chad, Logan felt the air shift like the storm had passed and only the wreckage remained. But the game wasn't over. Not yet. 2 days later, Logan sat in his study, the morning light streaming across the dark wood desk, as if it hadn't a clue about the storm brewing outside. His coffee sat untouched, cooling next to a legal pad filled with notes and timestamps. He had a meeting in 30 minutes, but for the first time in years, Logan wasn't sure how it would play out. His phone buzzed. The caller ID read Sharon West. Logan answered, voice level. "Ms. West, I was expecting your call." "Logan Pierce," she began, her tone sharp as a blade. "You're going to regret what you've done." Logan leaned back, one arm draped casually over the chair. "Enlighten me." Sharon didn't pause. "My client, Rebecca Torres Pierce, has filed an emergency injunction against you for financial fraud, asset concealment, and spousal deception under Texas community property laws. As of 900 a.m., your known assets are frozen pending a full forensic audit. Additionally, a motion has been filed to award my client temporary custody of your son, Caleb Pierce, citing concerns about your stability and potential criminal liability." Logan stared at the wall, his face unreadable. He could hear the rustle of papers through the phone, Sharon's voice triumphant. "You've built a pretty house of cards, Logan, but I have the whole damn legal system behind me. And I promise you, when I'm done, your wife will own half of everything, and you'll be left answering to the IRS, the SEC, and the Department of Justice for a very long time." For the first time in 20 years, a sliver of uncertainty flickered in Logan's chest. It wasn't fear. Logan didn't fear many things, but it was something close. Still, he kept his voice even, his tone almost bored. "You're good, Sharon. I'll give you that." "I'm better than good," she snapped. "You underestimated Rebecca. She's going to take you for everything." Logan ended the call without another word. He stared at the tablet on his desk, the numbers blurring for a moment. Then slowly a cold, calculating smile spread across his face. Because Sharon, for all her skill, hadn't realized one critical fact: Logan had seen this move coming 3 years ago. By noon, the headlines had shifted. Local gym mogul Chad Kingston under fire for assault allegations. Katie Morrison, the 17-year-old front desk clerk from Lone Star Ironworks, had come forward with a bombshell. Chad had sexually harassed her for months, and when she threatened to report him, he'd grabbed her arm and shoved her against a wall. The surveillance footage crystal clear, the audio unmistakable. Rebecca's phone exploded with notifications. Her face went pale as she scrolled through the headlines, her hands shaking. "Chad, you need to handle this," she hissed into the phone, her voice tight with panic. "I can't," Chad shouted back, his voice raw with desperation. "The footage is real, Rebecca. I don't remember doing any of that, but it's there, clear as day." Rebecca's stomach twisted into a knot. She knew that footage hadn't existed before. She knew. Logan's voice echoed in her mind, calm and unshakable. You'll understand soon enough. Yep. Sharon West stormed into her office, slamming the door behind her. Get me everything on Logan Pierce, she barked at her paralegal. I want his financials, his property records, his... Her phone rang. A restricted number. West. The voice on the other end was smooth professional. Ms. West, this is Special Agent Walters, FBI Cybercrime Division. We're contacting you regarding your investigation into Mr. Logan Pierce. Sharon's blood ran cold. Excuse me? We need you to cease all inquiries into Mr. Pierce's financial holdings immediately. Several of his companies are under federal contract, and unauthorized access could constitute a national security breach. Consider this a formal warning. The line went dead. Sharon stared at the phone, her breath coming fast. For the first time, she wondered if she had just stepped into a minefield far larger than she could handle. That evening, Logan watched the sunset from his balcony. Caleb beside him, silent and subdued. Dad, what's going to happen to Mom and Chad? Logan took a slow sip of his drink, the glass cool against his palm. They'll face the consequences of their choices, son. Just like we all do. Caleb was quiet for a long time. Then in a small voice he asked, did you plan all of this? Logan considered the question, the weight of it settling between them. I planned for the possibility, he said finally, because I knew who they were. I just needed you to see it too. By sunrise, the story had caught fire. Logan sat in the darkened kitchen, coffee cooling on the table, while the TV blared in the background. His face was calm, unreadable, as the anchor's voice filled the room. Breaking news this morning, Chad Kingston, owner of the Lone Star Ironworks chain, faces allegations of sexual harassment and assault from a former employee. The footage leaked overnight appears to show Kingston physically confronting a 17-year-old staff member. Investigators are moving quickly, and sources say charges could be filed as early as this afternoon. Logan's gaze stayed steady on the screen, but a quiet satisfaction settled in his chest. Caleb shuffled into the room, his hair a mess, wearing yesterday's hoodie. He froze when he saw the TV. That's Chad's gym. Logan nodded, his voice steady. It is. Caleb stared, eyes wide. Did you? Logan didn't answer. Instead, he sipped his coffee, letting the silence speak. Caleb sat down across from him, the weight of the moment pressing down like a heavy blanket. For the first time, the boy's bravado had crumbled, and what remained was a kid realizing just how much he didn't know. Across the city, Rebecca sat frozen on the couch in Sharon West's office. The color drained from her face as the news looped on every screen. Sharon tried to mask her own shock, but the cracks were showing. This wasn't supposed to happen. Rebecca whispered, her voice raw. He was supposed to go down, not Chad. Sharon rubbed her temples, fighting the throb building behind her eyes. Rebecca, listen to me. We have to focus. We still have the injunction against Logan's assets. That's leverage. But this is a mess. Rebecca's phone buzzed with notifications, texts from friends, family, even reporters. Her name was everywhere now, but not as the betrayed wife. The narrative had flipped. Headlines screamed, Rebecca Pierce, the puppet master behind the gym empire's collapse. Exclusive allegations surface of scheme to frame husband. From Mother of the Year to alleged fraudster, the fall of Rebecca Pierce. Rebecca's hands trembled as she tried to read, but the words blurred into static. I need to talk to Caleb, she said, her voice breaking. He'll understand. He'll see I did this for us. But when she dialed, the call went straight to voicemail, again and again. Sharon tried to keep her voice level, but the tension was thick. We need to get ahead of this, Rebecca. The media is turning. We have to spin it. Your story is that you were manipulated. A victim. The loving wife misled by a cunning man. I'm not a victim. Rebecca snapped, tears brimming in her eyes. No, Sharon said softly, almost like a whisper. But you need to be one now. That's the only card you've got left. Meanwhile, Logan's team was already 3 steps ahead. His private investigator, Tom Griffin, sent him a secure file, a collection of audio clips, financial records, and emails implicating Rebecca in more than just the gym scandal. There were records of her siphoning money from her mother's care fund, forging Logan's signature on credit applications, and manipulating Caleb into resenting his father. By noon, Channel 7 News aired the first piece of the story. The anchor leaned into the camera with practiced concern. New developments in the Pierce-Kingston scandal. Leaked audio suggests Rebecca Pierce not only plotted to frame her husband, but also misappropriated funds from her mother's medical account. The recordings obtained by an anonymous source paint a disturbing picture of betrayal, greed, and manipulation. Rebecca's face paled as she watched the broadcast, her hands clutching the armrest so tightly her knuckles turned white. I'm ruined, she whispered. Sharon didn't disagree. At the Pierce home, Caleb sat in stunned silence, the TV flickering in the dim light. His phone buzzed nonstop texts from friends asking if the rumors were true, if his mom really stole money, if she really tried to frame his dad. Logan sat beside him, a steady presence, quiet but solid as bedrock. Dad. I didn't know, Caleb said, voice barely a whisper. Logan turned to him, his expression softening. I know, son. That's why I let the truth speak for itself. You needed to see who they really were. And now you do. Caleb's eyes filled with tears, but he didn't cry. He just nodded slowly, the weight of betrayal settling on his young shoulders. Logan reached out a hand on his son's back. A simple gesture. A promise that they'd weather the storm together. By the time the afternoon sun baked the Austin streets, the legal walls around Rebecca were caving in. Sharon West's office, once a fortress of legal prowess, felt like a sinking ship. Sharon stood by the window, staring down at the courthouse across the street, her phone pressed to her ear, her voice low and tight. I don't care what it takes, file the motion now. If we lose control of the narrative, we lose everything. Rebecca sat at the conference table, pale and brittle, her fingers tapping an erratic rhythm against a water bottle. She looked like a woman unraveling. The door burst open. Sharon's paralegal. Kelly rushed in, her face flushed. You need to see this. She shoved a tablet across the table and Rebecca leaned in her breath, catching as she read. Breaking news: FBI opens investigation into Rebecca Pierce and Chad Kingston for fraud and witness tampering. Sharon snatched the tablet, scrolling through the article, her lips tightening into a thin line. It's over, she muttered the words, more to herself than anyone else. Rebecca shook her head violently, panic rising in her throat. No, this wasn't supposed to happen. He can't do this. Sharon's phone buzzed again, a restricted number. She hesitated, then answered. West. The voice was calm, clipped, and terrifying in its precision. Ms. West, this is Special Agent Daniels, FBI Financial Crimes Division. This is an official courtesy call. Cease all discovery efforts into Logan Pierce's holdings immediately. Certain entities under his control are classified. Continuing your inquiry constitutes a national security breach. Sharon's pulse pounded in her ears. National security? What the hell are you talking about? I suggest you step away, Ms. West, for your own good. The line went dead. Sharon lowered the phone slowly, her hand trembling. Rebecca stared at her wide-eyed. What did they say? Sharon looked at her client with something close to pity. They just told us we're done. It's my own. Logan's companies are under federal protection. We push this. We're not just in civil court anymore. We're in felony territory. Espionage, treason. This isn't just a divorce, Rebecca. It's a goddamn minefield. Rebecca's breath came in short, panicked gasps. No. This can't be happening. He's just a handyman. Sharon's voice was low, almost a whisper. No, Rebecca, he's not. Shattering. Soon across town, Logan sat in his study. The blinds drawn, the weight of the day pressing heavy but familiar. The old F-150 sat in the driveway, still parked, as if nothing had changed. His phone buzzed, a text from his private investigator, Griffin. Rebecca's accounts frozen, Chad's assets seized, the FBI's officially in. Game over. Logan stared at the message for a long moment, then slowly exhaled. He leaned back, hands laced behind his head, and closed his eyes. At the Pierce home, Caleb sat at the kitchen table, staring at his phone as texts and notifications flooded in, articles about his mother, memes about Chad, classmates asking what it felt like to be part of a scandal. He looked up when his dad walked in, the tension thick in the air. Logan sat across from him, quiet, waiting. Finally, Caleb broke the silence. Is it true? His voice cracked. Did Mom really steal from Grandma? Did she set up the whole thing with Chad? Logan's expression was steady, measured. Yes, and I didn't want you to find out like this, but sometimes the truth doesn't wait for the right moment. Caleb's shoulders slumped. I feel like I don't even know her. Logan's voice was soft but firm. You know who she pretended to be. Now you know who she really is. And that's a lesson you'll carry for the rest of your life, son. People will show you who they are when they think you can't fight back. That's when you see the truth. Caleb nodded slowly, the weight of it settling into his bones. By nightfall, the headlines blazed across every platform. Rebecca Pierce, from PTA mom to alleged mastermind of financial scandal. Federal authorities freeze assets in Pierce Kingston investigation. Sources: national security concerns shield Logan Pierce's holdings. Rebecca's phone had stopped ringing. Her friends, once so eager to gossip about Logan's failures, had gone silent. Her lawyer's office had cleared out for the day, and when she tried to call Caleb, he didn't answer. The night air over Austin felt thick, electric, like a storm building with nowhere to go. Rebecca sat alone in her car parked outside her lawyer's office, hands trembling on the steering wheel. The glowing screen of her phone lit up the interior, but no new messages came. Chad wasn't answering. Sharon had gone silent. Caleb. God. Caleb wasn't even taking her calls anymore. Her breath hitched in her chest, a tight, ragged sound. The weight of it all, her life unraveling, her friends vanishing, her reputation torn apart in public, pressed down like a suffocating blanket. She fumbled for the keys, trying to start the engine, but her hands were shaking too hard. The tears burned as they slipped down her cheeks. It wasn't supposed to be like this. She was supposed to win. She was supposed to get the house, the cars, the admiration, the respect. Instead, she was sitting in the dark, waiting for the world to stop laughing at her. Her phone buzzed, a sudden sharp sound that made her jump. A text. From an unknown number? You wanted a war, Rebecca. Now you're going to get one. Her stomach dropped. Her fingers scrambled across the screen to call the number back, but it went straight to voicemail. Before she could try again, headlights flooded her rearview mirror. A sleek black SUV idled behind her engine, purring like a predator in the night. The driver's door opened, and a figure stepped out, calm, deliberate. Logan. Rebecca's breath caught in her throat. She flung the door open, stumbling into the parking lot, her voice cracking as she shouted, Logan, please, we can talk about this. He didn't stop walking. His face was a mask, cool, controlled, terrifying in its quiet certainty. Talk about what, Rebecca, he asked, his voice like ice, so soft it cut deeper than any shout. How you stole from your own mother, how you tried to frame me, or how you paid a teenager to lie about Chad assaulting her. Her knees buckled, but she caught herself on the hood of her car. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I needed a way out. Logan's eyes darkened, a flicker of something dangerous sparking there. He stepped closer, his voice dropping low. You needed a way up, Rebecca. You wanted to trade in the life we built for a shinier one. And now that you've lost, you're sorry. He leaned in close enough that she could see the cold precision in his gaze, the unshakable calm of a man who had planned for every possibility. This isn't regret, Rebecca. This is fear. And you should be afraid because you tried to ruin me, and in doing so, you ruined yourself. Her breath hitched, tears streaming. Logan, I loved you. His lips curled into a slight, almost imperceptible smile, a bitter edge to it. No, Rebecca. You loved what I could give you, and when you thought I couldn't give you more, you threw me away. That's not love. That's greed. Before she could answer, another car screeched into the lot. Chad. He jumped out, wild-eyed, his hair disheveled, his shirt untucked. Rebecca. They're coming from the feds. They're freezing everything. They found the offshore accounts, the fake leases, everything. What did you do? Rebecca shook her head frantically, sobbing. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Logan, please, you have to stop this. Logan turned, his voice steady as steel. I already have. You did this to yourselves. Chad lunged toward him, fists clenched, but Logan barely flinched. Two black-clad men stepped out of the SUV, intercepting Chad mid-swing, pinning him to the pavement with brutal efficiency. Logan crouched down, looking Chad square in the eye. His voice was low, calm, almost clinical. You thought you could play in my world, Chad, but you didn't even know the rules. Chad spat, his voice a desperate rasp. I'll ruin you, Pierce. Logan stood, slowly brushing off his jacket. His voice was soft, but it cut like a blade. You're already ruined. You just haven't realized it yet. He turned to Rebecca one last time, his gaze cold final. You're done, Rebecca. This is your legacy now. Fraud, theft, betrayal. And it's all yours to carry. He walked back to the SUV, the door closing behind him with a quiet, decisive thud. The engine purred to life, the tires crunching over asphalt as the vehicle disappeared into the night. Rebecca sank to the ground, sobbing, while Chad lay panting on the pavement, rage and fear twisting across his face. And in the darkness, Logan's words echoed clear, cutting, undeniable. This wasn't revenge, it was justice. Father's Day dawned warm and bright in Austin, the kind of golden, cloudless morning that felt like a gift. Logan stood on the front porch of the new house, a sprawling stone estate perched on a hilltop overlooking the city skyline he had helped shape in more ways than one. He sipped his coffee, watching Caleb wrestle with a ladder on the side of the garage. The young man now was focused, determined, brow furrowed in concentration as he secured the base. Dad, Caleb called. Can you hold this while I check the bolts? Logan smiled faintly, setting his cup down and moving to help. It was a simple moment, ordinary even, but it was everything. They worked side by side, the hum of cicadas in the background, the distant sounds of a city going about its business. Caleb had chosen this house a fresh start, a new chapter, and Logan had agreed without hesitation. Think this roof's gonna hold up better than the last one? Caleb asked, half joking, half serious. Logan smirked. Depends. You planning on breaking my heart on this one too? Caleb froze, the words hanging heavy in the air. His shoulders slumped and he turned slowly, his face raw with regret. I didn't know, Dad. About Mom, about Chad. I was so angry. She told me you didn't care, that you'd let us sink because you were selfish. I believed her. Logan studied him, then nodded slowly. I know, son, and I don't blame you for believing her. That's the thing about lies. They're easier to swallow than the truth when you want them to be. Caleb looked down at the hammer in his hand, then back at his father. Is she ever going to get out? Logan's expression darkened, but his voice stayed even. 15 years minimum, fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy to commit witness tampering, and the state's looking into the elder abuse charges too. You don't steal from your own mother and walk away unscathed. A long silence stretched between them, the weight of everything that had happened settling into the bones of the day. Caleb swallowed hard. Did you ever love her, Dad? I mean, the real her, not the version she wanted you to see. Logan took a slow breath, his gaze drifting over the horizon. I love the idea of her, he said finally. The woman I thought she was, the family I thought we had. That's what I loved. But real love doesn't come with conditions. It doesn't manipulate or twist your kid into thinking you're worthless. And it damn sure doesn't try to destroy what it claims to care about. Caleb's jaw tightened, and he nodded, a quiet determination hardening in his eyes. Logan clapped a hand on his son's shoulder. That's why you have to be careful, son. Money, power. They'll make people show you their true colors. You don't let it change you. That's the test. I won't, Caleb said quietly. Logan's smile was small but real. Good. Now grab that wrench. This roof isn't going to fix itself. They worked in comfortable silence, the weight of the past few months settling into the dust of the present. Across the city, the wreckage of Rebecca and Chad's lives lay scattered. Chad, last Logan heard, was hiding out in a rundown Airbnb in Tijuana, living off the scraps he could smuggle through old contacts. Every few months, Logan's team found him just to remind him that debts, especially the kind that come with betrayal, don't disappear with distance. Rebecca was in a federal facility, stripped of the designer clothes and curated image she'd spent years building. Her lawyers had stopped returning her calls. Her name had faded from the headlines, replaced by the next scandal, the next clickbait story. She had become just another cautionary tale, an echo in the halls of ambition gone wrong. Logan didn't think about her much anymore. He didn't need to. The past was finished. The future, their future, was here on this hilltop under the Texas sun. As they packed up their tools for the day, Caleb turned to him with a thoughtful look. Dad, do you ever regret not telling us the truth sooner about the money, the companies, everything? Logan paused, then shook his head. No, he said simply, because the truth has a way of revealing itself at the right time. And sometimes you have to let people show you who they really are before you decide if they deserve to stay in your life. Caleb nodded, the lesson sinking deep into the marrow of his bones. And as the sun dipped low on the horizon, father and son stood together on that rooftop, looking out over the city. Their city. Their legacy. And this time there was no mask, no more games, just the truth laid bare. And it was enough.